Is this officially the end for Teresa and Jacqueline? It's the Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 7, Episode 5, Dinner Interrupted, starting right now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, AfterBuzzers. Get excited because the Real Housewives of New Jersey after show here at AfterBuzz TV. We're talking about tonight's episode and more. I'm your host, Grant Rutter. I'm just going to go rants on Twitter. And tonight, joining me,
this is Fern Ronay. You can find me at Fern Ronay, Ronay.
Hi, I'm Annabelle, and you can find me at AdderallAndCompliments.com.
And here we are. Very good. Let's talk about tonight's show and what happened in the episode. Let's started off with Melissa, inviting Teresa to go and watch her kids walk in the New York fashion show, and she invited Melania, who was the only kid in the room at the time, and so I was like, well, what about the others? But only Melania got an invite.
And I thought she was calling to invite Teresa's kids to be in the show, too. I was
Yeah.
like, no, you can just observe my kids be the stars.
Yeah, because it was like last year, like we did, like she was like filling her in. Like last year we were all in it, and now this year, do you want to see us be in it?
Right, it was so weird.
And it's like old school Teresa. If this was a couple years ago, she would have been throwing a fit that her kids weren't in the fashion show.
And she would have reminded Melissa that her kids were in the fashion show in the past.
Yeah, we're the original fashion show.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the Ladybug fashion show?
Oh, yeah.
Ladybug charity.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's on par with breast cancer, Susan G. Komen. You know, they're both equally successful. If we ever heard of Ladybug again, I never have.
I have not, to be honest with you, but yes. Then we flash forward to Dolores' dog passing, and this is we commented that there were a lot of kids in this episode. All the kids were out driving story in this episode.
It's becoming like Real Housewives, like not like Real Housewives, which we want to see. It's like just Real Housewives driving their kid in a minivan, complaining they're on their phone too much.
Yeah.
The Dolores, who I adore,
Yes.
like it's too real. Like her dog with kidney failure, and like the daughter who's in vet school having to administer like an IV bag, and it's like no.
It is too real.
This show is very real. I'm like thinking of this, and I got to look at the Real Housewives of Auckland, which all those women are awful. They're all mean and they're all bitches, and it's so over the top and so much more. It's not based in any of this. Like you'd never see one scene in tonight's episode in that show, and I find it a little bit more enjoyable. And
Right, so it's good.
Yeah. I think it's.
And it's like
great.
for us to finally have our show back, that the Olympics are not airing right now. Like Bravo, we were talking about, like if we wanted to watch the Olympics, we would turn on NBC, we would turn on ESPN if we wanted to watch sports. But Bravo, viewers are not sports-like people.
Exactly. I'm sure Bravo's audience had no
interest
in the Olympics
whatsoever. The only sport I want to see is like how many tables they can flip, how many bottles of wine they can drink, how many weaves can be pulled, like stuff that I care about.
Stuff that matters.
And then it's like they finally put out a new episode, and this is it where we're like, is this the B-roll? Did the editors get lazy and they're like, just put in whatever? Because it really felt like stuff that should be on the cutting room floor.
Yes.
Yeah, we said that. It was all like lost footage, like secrets revealed the list.
Right.
So much
Well,
kids.
I must say, NBC pays my bills, so I love the Olympics and the Real Housewives of New Jersey.
So do we.
I have to say that. But yes, no. Whatever. It's all good.
It's just like,
but I agree. I think one could argue that perhaps there are two different audiences.
Yes, yeah.
But ultimately, here we are. I don't know.
It was a long 2 weeks, but we're back.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so we learned a little bit more about Dolores, the ex-husband, the kids. They're a very fit family. I mean, he was Mr. New Jersey. The kids are all in decent shape, I guess you could say. She then talked about wanting to renovate the house. She wants everything gray and white. And it seems like that they're going to have the home renovation storyline.
Wonderful.
Very common storyline on every series, on every franchise.
But I think it's interesting though. Let's comment about her relationship with her ex-husband.
That's what's interesting. Why isn't there more about that? I want to know more about who did he cheat on her with? How'd she find out? How did it all go down? When did they decide to finally get divorced? Why are her parents still talking to him? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't want to see her home renovation.
And he is gonna foot the bill for some of this. So
Right,
that's
It's
another
like my
dynamic.
dream relationship where you're divorced, but like he lives in a different house. You don't have to have sex with him, but he pays for everything for you. That's like the dream. And it's like, I love that, like when you watch sitcoms and like people have been divorced, but they're still like best friends. You're like, that doesn't happen. But she's like, remember when you cheated on me? Pass the calzone. Like they don't, like it does not seem to bother them whatsoever. I'm like,
all.
is this real?
And he has a serious relationship. He has a girlfriend. I wonder how she feels about him renovating the house.
Right.
That's what's interesting.
I really hope that the son Frankie is involved in the home renovations with many like shirtless like sledgehammer. Can we start a countdown of when he turns 18?
Yes, can we? There has to be a clock somewhere.
I feel like how all the like the guys had, you know, the countdown for like Taylor Swift and like the Olsen twins. It's like
Yes.
now it's our turn to perv out. It's like Zac Efron has already become of age. And normally I do not go for anybody younger or thinner than me, so that counts out 99% of the population. But I'm making an exception for Frankie because he's
I'm happily married, but I'm making the Frankie
Gorgeous.
exception.
I thought it was kind of
Frankie's on your cheat list. He's on the.
Wasn't it kind of odd though that he had to get up in front of his family and show off his body?
Not at all. I need more of that. He's the only kid I want to see on that show.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel creepy calling him a kid. I feel very Mary Kay Letourneau, but like he's the only offspring of a housewife that I want to see on the show.
He's the only interesting one at this point.
Well, we learned that Dolores owns a gym, and then I was like,
Surprise.
oh, this all makes sense now.
Hopefully
You're
it
all in
goes
great
more
shape.
successful than a Cut Fitness with one Tamara Barney. But we saw the interior. It looks just as bleak.
Yeah, it was like Powerhouse Gym. I thought that was just like a regular gym. I didn't think. Is it franchised? Like I didn't think it was like
Probably.
a private. Like it wasn't like a boutique.
I think it just looks
Gym.
private because no one's there. So I guess
looked like nothing to
it's
me.
incredibly private because
looked
you are
like nothing to me.
if only the owners are in there. It's very, very private.
Well, what else happened? Melissa says that she's still close with Teresa, but she cannot disagree with her, so they're not that close yet.
I guess that makes you have a close relationship if you can disagree and still not flip out on each other.
I think you like people who don't disagree with you. I know I do. Somebody who's just like, yeah, that's right. I mean, nobody does, but I would love it if somebody did say that to me.
There you go.
I get along with both of my sister-in-laws, and we don't have disagreements. So actually, I take back what I just said.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it would make sense if you just, yeah.
I mean, the relationship is very
peaceful.
fragile, so of course they're gonna have to just play nice.
Yeah.
I think Melissa's been so mature this season.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a fan of her in all the other seasons. Like, I feel like being in that family must be a lot. Having to raise your
Yes.
3 kids, and then your biggest child is also the one that you have to have sex with and take care of. Like, he's more needy than any. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like he's literally like an infant.
He is.
He's really a turnoff this season.
He is.
Yeah, I mean his like misogynistic behavior and being a kid, like you said, he really is like a child.
Like when they were
It's
at
not
that,
enjoyable.
when they were at the dinner after, you know, the major fashion show of New York Fashion Week, they must have cut Anna Wintour out. She must have not signed the release. But they went out to dinner at like a 24-hour cafe after the show, and where they were eating like macaroni and cheese. And as he's sitting there, and what is it? Who's the little one?
Joey.
Joey, and he has like that little Tiny Tim moment where he's like, I love everyone at this table. And then like, of course, like, senior, like, I have too much poison in me. He's like, this is what I love. The 2 women I love most, besides my daughter, my mom, my wife and my sister, both paying attention to me, wanting to know, because he was like going on, he's like, I had 103-degree fever once. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, and
it's all about him.
he's like having both women pay attention to me. I'm like, oh God.
He used to be lovable. I used to love him.
I used to like love their love
Me
because they were
too.
so into each other. Now I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, he has like some weird like.
now
He's
I want
very
him to shut up.
self-obsessed. Yeah, he's very self-obsessed. Even like just looking at what we've been given this last season, the last 5 episodes, with like him being so pissed that she's working, him not getting enough time to do his own work on his own projects.
And one of the kids saying that when he has to drive them to school, he drives them to the wrong school. How many different schools can there? You have 3
I feel like
children.
that was a past season. Yeah, I remember that from like a past season.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I feel like the producers must have said to him, your storyline is going to be you feel neglected by your wife, sex-wise,
Yes.
home-wise, cooking-wise, and he's like, okay, and just is running with it, and it's a little too much.
Maybe he's realizing that he's not getting as much as he wants. So he's like, oh, well, maybe this isn't just a storyline. I don't know. Chris Laurita is still pining to have a drink with Joe. With Joe Giudice. Last week or last episode, it seemed like he was kind of up his ass a little bit. And so this episode, they had a couple moments, including the first scene where he's like, yeah, I just really want to get him back over here. Like, what is this? Like, just call the guy up.
Can you imagine just being stuck with Jacqueline? I mean, you want anyone to come over. He's like, please, anyone. I know he's about to go to prison. I need to suck up my time now. I mean, do they have that many other friends?
I know. Who knows?
Like
they
his
have
options,
11 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, his options are, Juicy Joe or Caroline. It's just basically the same IQ and,
Or Ashley, the makeup artist.
Yeah. But,
speaking of makeup.
Well, speaking of makeup,
yes.
She should get it from here because our sponsor this week is actually Beauty Box. Because if you love makeup and not leaving your house like me, this stuff gets delivered to you every month. And each one has different beauty products made by the beauty gurus on YouTube and everybody that you follow in the magazines. And it's over $150 worth of products and it only costs $30. So perfect for all the housewives, price ranges because it's all they can afford. And
Good point.
You have an annual payment. And you pay the total cost of the entire year of boxes. And you can check out beauty.com. And we actually have a promo code for you. And it's BoxBuzz for 20% off of your subscription. That's really good, actually.
That is really good.
Yeah, and you pay it and you write it off and you don't have to worry about a monthly fee. You write
and then
it,
you forget about it and it shows up at your door and you're ecstatic.
Yeah.
I love mail surprises.
I know.
That's my version of drunk texting when I wake up in the morning. I was like, yay, mail!
Exactly.
And this one you get, Redken sea salt spray, which is good because I have flat share hair, so I definitely need some of that. And Smashbox brow, because everybody wants brows as strong as I have. And you have Candy Johnson's go-to brow product and NYX Ombre Lip Duo in peaches and cream. Trust me, you want to get that instead of I'm wearing Kylie's lip kit. Big mistake. Get this. Promise you.
I like it. All right, one more time. Beauty Box.
It's Beauty Box, and we have the promo code, and use the code BoxBuzz for 20% off.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you. All right, let's talk about Siggy and her daughter and the phone situation that seemed to take up at least 20 minutes of this 40-minute episode.
It's cheaper. It took as much time to watch that scene as it would to go to AT&T and sign up a phone and sign up for the family plan. It was insane. And it's I love Siggy. I adore
like her. Too, yes.
But it felt like a Dr. Phil experiment, when they followed them around, parents, they can't get off their phones, parents trying to connect with their teens. And it was just a video montage of that, her talking to her kids about the technology addiction, her taking away the phones, it was just,
it was not interesting.
And it's the entire time we're on our phones watching this scene because we're bored.
Exactly.
Where is her husband? Has her husband signed on the show?
I'm dying to meet him.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't want to participate.
He might. I think he's a lawyer in New Jersey. Maybe he doesn't want to be part of it. I don't know.
But that's a total missing
Yes,
link.
I am dying to see them and their interaction. Because she's Jewish, he's Italian. That's me and my husband. Yeah. And I'm dying to see their interaction.
Well, wait, I think next week, what are they having, Shabbat?
They're having a Shabbat, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we'll be there for that.
I'm curious if he participates. I know. But Siggy reminds me so much of Lisa Rinna, the first season she was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We loved her.
Yes.
And then we were like, she doesn't have a storyline, but we love her.
Yeah.
That's so Siggy.
We need a little bit more from her.
She's not doing anything, but we love her. Sort of like Chrissy Teigen. You're you do nothing, but we love it.
Yep.
But I did feel bad for her at that dinner. Oh,
they went to a second diner, made an appearance in this episode. And
it's like Seinfeld, but not funny or interesting.
And it's like Beverly Hills, they went to Wally's. It's and then over here, but it's okay.
It's like Jersey, that cell phone scene went on so long that I was more focused on the old Asian woman behind the kids. She was all I could look at, and she got to be on her cell phone. It was just this scene went on for so long.
Yeah, so we did feel that
everything.
For her.
I love it.
Because it's just talking about cell phones. God.
This one's got better things to do. You've got other things to do.
I got better things to look at.
No, but in the scene with Chris, Laurita in his office, she noticed the Jacqueline glamour shot in the back.
Well, and his little colonel. Well, it was very easy to notice the glamour headshot framed picture of Jacqueline because it's not like they have any product awards for little colonel, so he has to fill up that shelf space with something.
Go back and look. It's funny.
Well, what was like?
It's
what was
just
I
so
saying here?
blatant. It's
I'm
a
sorry. They
giant
were at the
picture.
diner.
The kids kind of made Siggy feel bad because they said, "Well, we're on our phones when we're on you, but when we're with our dad, we can put them down." And then the son timed the mother to see if Siggy could sit there and not open her mouth for 2 minutes when he tried to explain his, where he is in life or something like that. I don't know. I thought it was overall a cute scene, but it could have been boiled down to like 2 minutes.
I just felt so bad for her because even though she's a relationship expert and she should, be able to handle, I don't know, you just assume she's able to handle any kind of family situation or marriage situation. And she started crying and I felt so bad for her because the kids were basically saying we have more fun with our father, who we see twice a month. Like, you do everything for us. She seems like a mother who does everything for her kids.
A real Jewish mom,
Yeah, like really does everything for them. And
She
they're
requires
like,
so
"You're not
much
fun."
attention. I
She's
think
a
like
bit
whenever
little
there's a screen,
needy.
she's like, but the screen isn't on me unless you're watching my appearance on Wendy Williams. Look at me. And it's like, I love her.
But
Like-
no, when she's on Wendy though, I have a
like-
very hard time with her.
Like, I love Siggy, but
you
like
don't like
let
her
them
on
be
Wednesday.
on let them be on their phones. And she's so up her daughter's like ass about you have to get into a good college. Let me see your and it's like, listen, we all know college is a scam, Siggy. Like, let her be on her phone.
Right.
It ain't gonna make a damn difference. I
Yeah,
can lose
like-
to her with
And she's like, you don't want to rely on a man for, we don't want to rely on a man for money. It's like, yeah, like everybody else in this cast. Trust me, it looks great. I mean, not these men find somebody who has money like the Beverly Hills crew, but it's like, seems to be working out for them. Is Gigi Hadid
Yes.
going to college? No.
There you
Good
go.
point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always was curious. Like, I had a phone and stuff in school, but like, I didn't have to deal with any of that stuff. Like, I don't really remember being caught for anything. Like, I don't know. Like, nowadays, I guess everyone must just get detention for being on them because no one. I mean, I've looked at my phone throughout this episode once.
Oh my
And it's
God.
work
Thank
related,
God.
but-
So I'm a little older. Thank God they did not have phones when I was in, how old is she? 13?
Yeah.
I would have never made it through school because I'm on my phone constantly.
No, I barely made it through school, and I like had a T-Mobile sidekick that
Yeah.
could not get service to save its life. So
Yeah, and it's like, you know what? I think they just have to accept that people are gonna check them. You know, because
Yeah.
if my phone vibrated and I was like at work, I mean, I'm gonna turn it over. You know what I mean? I'm at work.
But
I'm in a
that's the
professional
culture now.
atmosphere,
That's
yeah.
where you get like news, and like
Exactly.
listen. I don't think technology is like on its way out, Sig.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Yeah.
it's
You might want to get used
Sorry.
to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, whatever. What else? So Chris and Jacqueline are entertaining, and once again, another episode. And Joe and Teresa are coming over, and Teresa kind of catches up with the kids, which I thought was kind of awkward because didn't Teresa say something kind of against Jacqueline's kids, or like she never checked up on Nicholas, she never asked the status.
Yeah,
Wasn't-
it was
did that come
something
out?
like
Yeah.
it was something where I mean I remember on a reunion where they were showing
Right.
Nicholas kind of regressing, and all Teresa could say was, "That's Adriana's boyfriend," and they were like, "Shut up! It's not about you. Like, this poor kid."
Yeah.
That's what I remember. But
Yeah.
but it's hard to see Nicholas on.
Right.
He seems to be doing better, but we all agreed it's tough.
Yeah.
It's hard
That poor
watching.
family.
Yeah.
In every different city, whatever housewife has something wrong, like for them to like exploit it, like how Heather Thompson with her kid who like couldn't hear good or something, or like which was the one who had the terrible nail polish collection, and she's like, my daughter can't walk, and I was like, you live in a studio apartment, you should be happy she can't walk, there's nowhere to go to. But it's, I mean, she could walk, it's not like, but it was like when the husband was busy having an affair, but it's like, it's so terrible for these like
Which one?
why it's for like exactly it's, that's a dime a dozen, but it's like every housewife like exploits their most vulnerable child, where it's like CJ, her 13-year-old son's like walking in the back, and it's like, it's sad when you're like, can you bring Ashley on? Like, it's sad when you're like, it makes me like less sad to watch Ashley talk, and it's just like,
yeah, it's really heartbreaking because when
Yeah.
they showed the flashback and she said, oh, maybe they'll date one day, and who knows if he'll, it's so sad because you're like, you have a child and you
Yeah.
have all of these hopes, and then who knows if he'll ever be able to have that kind of relationship. And it was so heartbreaking to see that.
it's so hard to
so
like watch, and so
yeah.
sad, and it's like some kid who's already like so sensitive and like trying to like develop and like trying to like progress every day, and it's like you shove 4 cameras in his face and like a sound boom and everything. It's like, I'd be terrified as a
poor
kid.
kid.
Like,
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
intimidating. Yes.
Yeah. The only good thing is if people are watching
Yeah.
who are in the same situation as like Heather or any of the other housewives. If it gives them hope, that's good, but it's a little
awkward
sad.
enough, I feel, for all of those kids with Teresa being there, because the last time she was there that she referenced was in 2011. These kids don't really remember her. I mean, I'm sure CJ has heard plenty of long conversations that Jacqueline has had about her, but like, it's kind of like that weird family friends, like your mom's friend from like college or something like that, and it's like you haven't seen them in a long time. It's like you don't really have anything to say to that person.
The forced conversation.
Yeah, and then you've got children, and it's like they don't want it. They don't really. They would rather miss it. They'd rather be upstairs and not have to have the awkward
they would
encounter.
say, it's so. When the last time I saw you, you were this big. Isn't that crazy? And you're like, it's not crazy. It's just time. That's how time works.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's just awkward that the least entertaining couple are the ones who are always entertaining.
Yes.
In their house of brown, literally everything in that house is brown.
Yeah, that house needs an updating.
They're like, we're gonna match the color to your personality, Jacqueline. Brown is crap. Brown is gonna be the theme. It's gonna be the decorator for the house. Like,
well, you pointed out that they look like a team. The husband and wife.
Oh my God.
Jacqueline and Chris were both wearing navy ensembles, like they were about to go to like a Sears portrait studio. It was just like, oh God. And it's like that poor, like what I was focused on, they had this poor King Charles Cavalier who's like stuffed in like what appeared to be like a cat crate. It was the smallest dog crate I've ever seen. And it's like the only dog that should be, put in a crate. Listen, if Kingsley's allowed to run around Beverly Hills, you're gonna put this poor King Charles Cavalier and not Melania in a cage? Like, come on. Like, it was just that party. What can't even say party. That dinner from
hell.
They didn't even get to dinner. They didn't even get to antipasta.
I know.
Weird. So Jacqueline started off this conversation by saying, well, I really thought something was going to happen at the Envy party. Now, that's so weird. That's
Just like baiting.
Yeah. It's been like, how come no one got in a fight last night? It's like, wait, what?
Honestly.
So, all right. So Jacqueline was already off on some weird energy, to say the least. Then they flash back to that scene that we've already seen almost every episode this season of that fight on the deck. And I'm laughing because we watched, and what did her Caroline shows up with a coffee
Caroline
colada.
shows up with like a culotta from Dunkin' Donuts. She's like, what's going on over here? I was like, you're just trolling people's backyards? It was just so like she came out of nowhere.
Yes. She's like, I heard screaming. She heard screaming. They didn't even live in the same neighborhood, right?
Those giant backyards. You think it's like Sasquatch, like having to walk through and like her movement, just like.
Well,
So what's going on over here?
And just so back all these years ago, Teresa says that she felt ambushed that moment, and Jacqueline says that all of her assumptions were true about her going to jail. Jacqueline just wants all of this affirmation, she wants all this backing up that she was correct and that she knew. And then there was an article that came out, and that Teresa claims at the time that article was like nothing that she knew of. It was just speculation. So there's clearly a disconnect. And my favorite line, perhaps of all the housewives this year, was when Teresa said, I did not pose for that jail article. She's like, I did not post that jail article. I've never heard anyone have to clarify such a statement. I'm just like picturing like her like in a black and white uniform, like posing like, am I going in? Like
An article. And it's such a fancy way to call it Us Weekly. Like,
it's like a piece.
article.
Yeah,
Right.
a piece.
Which
Lord.
jail article was it? There were like a million.
I know, and they all were
Whatever.
true.
Yeah.
They all were true.
Yeah.
Teresa feels hurt that Jacqueline would ask her that question, again, from 2011. And Jacqueline says that in her interview, her one-on-one, that Teresa has not changed. And Jacqueline's like a little, Teresa's no saint, obviously, but Jacqueline's been pretty, off.
The fact that she's like, you lied to me about your finances, and Teresa's like, I didn't know at the time. And it's like, I 100% believe Teresa when she says, I didn't know. Because I believe she doesn't know anything. So she's being honest when she's like, I didn't know. It's like, it's not her job. Like, Jacqueline, you don't, what answers does she owe you? Listen, she couldn't even give answers to the government. What does she owe you? Nothing.
Exactly.
It's like, she didn't take money from them. It's just so weird. Jacqueline's feels so entitled to answers.
And that's exactly why these two will never get along, because Teresa feels like she owes Jacqueline nothing, and Jacqueline feels like she's owed the world.
She doesn't. She doesn't owe her anything. And the fact that Jacqueline called Teresa's like.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That made no
Yes.
sense to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, she calls him to implicate him into being like, you told me not to trust her.
Yeah, because she said,
That was it?
she's like, your brother was telling me that, I shouldn't trust you. And Teresa's like, well, he told me that I shouldn't trust you. And so Jacqueline's like, well, should I call him? And she, of course, calls him on the speaker, and he magically picks up right away because he's not having sex with Melissa at the time or complaining that, he's not able to. So he picks up, and it was like, felt like a scene from Mean Girls. Like, they're like, did you tell me not to trust her? It was just like, so sad. And it's like Jacqueline had no right to do that whatsoever.
He handles himself well on that call, though, because he was like, well, we were probably on a really bad place when I said that. But he should have called her out and said, why are you calling me?
Yeah, like, we're good now. I'm good with my
Yeah.
family. Like, they keep saying they don't want to rehash the past,
But that's
and they're
all
all
they're
they're doing.
That's the whole show for the last 4 seasons,
Yes,
guys.
it's ridiculous.
And then for Jacqueline just to be like, well, I was just calling just to make sure everything was okay. And we're like, yeah, that's exactly why you called, to make sure everything wasn't going to be okay, so you have something for the
Right.
rest of the season.
Exactly.
Well, then Teresa turned the tables, and she said that, well, you were going through legal issues too. And then Jacqueline says, well, it wasn't a criminal case or fraudulent behavior. And so that was a low blow, Teresa's words.
Yes, and I agree.
Yeah, it kind of was. So Jacqueline says that she believed everyone, including Joe and Melissa, Joe and Melissa were putting out negative things against her, so she believed all that at the time. So again, more past.
I couldn't. It's sad when it's like I'm watching Real Housewives of New Jersey. I'm like, it's like Homeland. I can't keep up. But like, I was honestly watching. It's like, I don't understand. What does she owe you? I still don't understand what her problem is besides like, you need a paycheck.
Exactly.
Well,
like in
yeah.
the whole like obviously she's
like
doing
nothing's
it to have a
linked if you
storyline.
did like a string theory chart. Nothing links to her of like what Teresa did at all. Like it caused no problem for her whatsoever.
Right.
Keep in mind, Jacqueline wasn't even on the show the last season that we were on, like 2 years ago, but she wasn't even on that.
Right.
I mean, I get that she wants to come to some conclusion about their friendship, but the conclusion is end it. Close the chapter now.
Exactly.
Teresa ran out of that house. She made Joe pull that wine as fast as he
Joe
could.
brought like a wine cooler, like enough wine, like brought a wine bottle for every month Teresa was in prison. It was the most wine I've ever seen somebody bring over somebody's house, and they seem to be having a ball in the other room. Joe told a hilarious story, which Chris could not get over. He was like, "So I called an Uber, and I went up to the car window, and I said, 'Are you my Uber?' And it said no." And Chris
is
cracked up. He was
Chris is
like,
"Tell me more." He's
I know,
so
he was
into
like,
it.
it was like he was the new Louis C.K. He was like, "Get out! That's the craziest story I've ever heard." And we're like, "Oh, that happens to us 5 times a day in LA. Like, not a crazy story whatsoever." And he's like, "I was having fun.
Yeah.
Like, the bitches always mess everything up." I was like, "Nice."
Well,
I mean, I feel bad.
it's
Like, if
over
I could
for
just
them.
say really quickly, I was on Teresa's side here, because I think what Jacqueline said was such a low blow that she said, at least we didn't file fraudulent bankruptcy. Like, if you're really a friend, do not remind your friend of their mistakes. If you're really friends, you forget the past. Teresa has to forgive, which she obviously hasn't. And Jacqueline has to not bring up your friend's mistakes. So they're both wrong, but I really was on Teresa's side. I would have stormed out of there, and I would never speak to her again.
I have no further interest in seeing these two repair this
No,
friendship.
none.
It's over. It's done, and now things are going to disintegrate with her and
Yeah.
Melissa, Jacqueline and Melissa. So,
Well, she just, I mean, Jacqueline, what she did was terrible. Like,
Yeah.
she completely, like, lured her into a trap and did, like, for no reason.
Yeah.
That was not called for whatsoever.
let's turn to some news and gossip real quick. I have a little story that I just want to share because it deals with something we like to talk about on the show, which is income levels. And this is an interesting article. It says Melissa's estimated to make $65,000 and Joe around $45,000. I didn't know the house husbands made money. So that, I don't know what you make of that. And also says...
How much does Frankie make?
I don't know. Also,
Let's start a collection.
it says that it's always like the worth, how much these people are worth. It says that these people are worth in the negatives. Joe and Melissa are worth in the negatives. It says that they owe $2.25 million on their mortgage from 07. And $250,000 to different creditors. So that could be why they never finished that other house, and they had to go back to this one.
I read that they got like a an adjustable rate mortgage on their first house, and that they did like a construction loan so he could show it as like a spec, like this is what I build, and then a balloon payment came due and they couldn't pay it. But I could be wrong.
Well,
That's what I read.
that would make sense, especially if you look at the timeline. That probably happened around
Yeah.
08 time period. Yeah.
From what I remember.
Interesting. Well, in the meantime, you can keep up with us. Please leave some comments below. Give us a thumbs up because there's no reason not to. And please keep up with us on all social media. Annabelle, where can we find you and what are you doing?
You can find me. My blog is AdderallAndCompliments.com, and I do reality recaps, and it's also the name of my podcast.
And I'm Fern Ronay, and you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Fern Ronay, Ronay, and you can check out my website, fernronay.com.
And you guys can find me over on Twitter at Grants__rants. And you can find my podcast, Grants Rants Hollywood Talk, on all major platforms. And everything is up on YouTube, so it's very easy. Once you're done with the show, go over there and check it out. That'll do it for us from the Real Housewives of New Jersey.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos,
Kevin
Kevin
Undergaro,
Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.